right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of Barstool Backstage. A lot to talk about this week. There's a lot going on in the music industry, a lot of big names dropping new music. It's Coachella weekend. We have a lot to cover. We got all the boys in the building besides Dave, so it should be a good episode. We also have a fill-in co-host for White Sox Dave. You know her, you love her. Kelly Keegs in the building. Kelly, how are we?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I've been wanting to come on, so I'm thrilled to have been invited.
Well, I mean, there's enough going on in your world because you cover the Taylor Swift, the pantheon of Taylor Swift and what's going on over there. So we will get into that. Let's go around the horn real quick. Kenny, how are you, bud?
Man, it's the best day of my life, you know.
It always is, isn't it?
Same.
You're a dirtbag. Johnny, how are you, bud?
I'm great, Colin.
Have you fucked with AI at all today?
Have I? I've fallen deep into that, just making like album artwork. It's too easy. Do you know what I mean?
Like, you scare me. I have to be completely honest.
Why?
Because you're fucking with the robot overlords. You are 100% on their side.
It doesn't matter whether you're actively doing it or not. Like we're involved, so you might as well go out fighting, I suppose.
You can't be.
Yeah, fuck that, dude. Dante, you're on a rooftop in Cleveland. How are you, bud?
I'm amazing, man. I forgot how much I love the sun. The sun makes me so like you can't be in a bad mood when it's sunny and nice out. It's not a cloud in the sky. It's like 80 degrees in Cleveland, Ohio. It feels like July. Life is good.
Nothing like beautiful Cleveland, Ohio to really get the blood pumping, dude. Oh, man. Kelly, we're happy to have you here today. This has been a long time coming. You cover more of the pop culture side of things. We kind of avoid it. And there's been a lot going on in the Taylor Swift world. So why don't you catch us up on what happened this past week?
There's always a lot going on in Taylor Swift's world. I'll say that at first, especially in the past year or so. I think that she's really been hyping up this tour that she obviously has started. She's about a quarter of the way through. So this past weekend, she and her boyfriend of 6 years, Joe Alwyn, split up, or the announcements were that they've split up. I still personally am slightly in denial. I'm hoping that it's all just a farce and ridiculous and just trying to get some publicity, because a lot of her catalog is written about him. I would say that I was trying to put a number on it earlier. I'd say 30% of her songs are like about Joe Alwyn or like influenced by him. And something that's even crazier is her Folklore and Evermore albums, the two albums that she put out in the middle of the pandemic that she just kind of whipped up, and there we are. They had a lot of input from Joe, whether it be musically, lyrically, or the idea of a song. He was heavily involved, weirdly. So it's just kind of it's a big breakup. It's a big breakup.
Okay, I have to throw a flag here. Okay, I understand that he had input on the album. That's going to happen when you're that close to somebody and in that proximity for that long of a time. I think all the musicians on this podcast can agree, even if their significant others or family aren't assisting them in writing their songs, they are giving them feedback, telling them if this song is trash or if it's good. We just talked about that last week with Rob Thomas. But I got to throw a flag on the comment you made about, I forget what you said, 60% of the songs being about him.
30.
I mean, are they about Joe Alwyn or are they about Taylor's love interest? Can you sub in whoever she's dating at that time, or are they specifically about this guy?
They're specifically about Joe. I would say all of the love songs on Reputation are about him. All the love songs on Lover are about him. Half of the songs that the Folklore and Evermore, I would say albums are like not they're not supposed to be about people in Taylor's life, but they are. Like Invisible String is about him. There's a lot of like important songs that are about him. And also too, with contributing on the album, he is musical. So he wrote some of the music for Exile. He wrote some of the music and lyrics for
he is co-writing credit. He is co-writing credits on a few songs, which I respect. That's pretty cool. But I just feel like, all right, give me an honest answer here. Friend to friend. Did you ever see her marrying this guy? Did you ever think like, okay, this is serious. She's going to probably end up with this guy? Because I did not.
Honestly,
I thought
I didn't think marriage. I'll be honest. Like I didn't think Taylor would ever get married. I figured she just wouldn't get married. That's too much for her. And I think that, but I did think that she was going to be with him for a long time. I figured like he was endgame, at least for
Can I ask an honest question real quick, Kenny? Like honestly, did you ever think you'd be on a podcast talking about Taylor Swift's prospects for getting married?
If I'm being completely Pocahontas right now, I didn't even know that she was dating anybody.
Wow.
Fuck you guys.
I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that's like to be so out of touch with what's going on.
For 6 years. That's so crazy.
Welcome to Stoner Music Production.
Yeah.
Well, here's my question. Like, all right, so he's got co-writing credits. I'm just more curious as to like, I feel like this is like rocked her fan base's world of like, because I think I'm on the outs, like
in a good way. I'm overjoyed about this.
Yeah, because you think you have a shot.
Yeah, you're delusional, Dante. I don't know what you think is why you're so hype about this, but
Dude,
I'll say you're right. The fans have gone crazy about this, and I think it's partly to do with the fact that Taylor writes so much about Joe, but she paints him in this light of like, he brought me out of the darkness and he like made me mature. Like this was my most mature relationship, and the best of my work has come out of the time that I've spent with him. So I think that the people who feel so invested in this relationship are worried about like the future of the music, which I mean, chill about that. Like she'll put out A+, no matter what. But I do think that people are like, she sold us on their love story and we all bought it. And we've been eating it up for years and just loving it. And so people feel like, their own lives have been broken up or something, which is obviously delusional. I don't know if you've seen, people are putting flowers on the doorstep of her old Cornelia Street house in New York City. It's fucking nuts. Like you got to call the police on these people. That's insane.
End times, guys. This is end times. This is what starts to happen in end times.
Do you think though that now there's going to be a slew of breakup songs talking shit that she'll do in her? No, wait.
For this one, I don't think
that's not what usually happens.
No,
I don't think so on this. Like, I think that she like the announcement was like, we broke up amicably. Everything will be, we just grew apart, basically is what it is. And to be honest, her like later years breakup songs are more sad and disappointed than they are angry, if that makes sense. Like she hasn't had like an angry breakup song in a while because she really hasn't been dicked over in a while. Like that's, like I said, she was dating Joe for 6 years. She before that, her boyfriends were just kind of like, whatever, you barely even move the needle for me. And we haven't had like that angry breakup song since she originally wrote All Too Well back when on the Red album, which was again 2012. People forget, just because she recently released the 10-minute version doesn't mean it wasn't written 10 years ago.
I picture her sitting down with Joe and like 4 or 5 lawyers / like social media analysts and like going, listen, it's amicable, but the chart's only going one way, Joe, and we got to start moving numbers. Gave him like a 3-week period to try and get his shit together, get the numbers moving the other direction, and it failed.
This didn't work. Do you guys remember, this is so random and off the cuff, do you guys remember when Lorde was first getting big, right? And they'd be like at the VMAs, and it'd be like Taylor Swift all pretty and dancing, Ariana Grande all pretty and dancing, all these people, and then it's just Lorde like this.
Always like a dark queen.
Yes.
I wish it...
Lord,
I wish I could talk shit, but when Kanye and Kim Kardashian broke up, I laid flowers at the foot of Kanye's new megachurch, and I really can't say anything.
You see that Kim Kardashian's going to have a lead role in the new American Horror Story?
Yes, I did. And I cannot imagine that going well. Like, I love Kim. I'm a Kim Kardashian stan.
Oh my God, I'm so
She's not a good actress. She's not a good actress.
Guys, we are in that episode right now of American Horror Story starring Kim Kardashian.
I feel like it could be one of those things where she's in the first episode and gets brutally murdered in the first episode.
Yeah, people are saying that'll probably happen. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm just so intrigued because on this podcast, we've talked so much about Dante's love of Taylor Swift. Surprisingly, White Sox Dave has completely come around. I've always been wary of Taylor Swift. And I think it's from my experience in Nashville working with a lot of songwriters to where, like, I just look at her in a different lens. I respect her talent. It's not my cup of tea per se. But I'm just curious, Kelly, like, when did this super fandom begin? Like, when did that, like, really start to materialize for you?
Do you think, oh, for me or or overall? I think that
I can't study the psyche of all the people that are laying flowers at the
True.
doorstep of the Bleecker Street house, but
True.
I'm
And I have to say, I'm not at that level. Like I love Taylor. I would like take a bullet for Taylor, but I would not lay flowers on the house that she doesn't even live in anymore, by the way. So it's like, what the fuck? But I was a fan, let's see. I became a fan around her Speak Now album, which I think was like 2010. And I knew her songs from debut. I knew Tim McGraw. I knew the early days, like stuff I heard on the radio, and I liked it. We were about the same age. I think she's 1 year older than me. And so it always felt to me like our lives were moving in tandem. Like every time she would put out a song, I had something going on in my life that really applied to the lyrics she was putting out. Just that feeling, not necessarily like, I'm obviously not famous, so I don't know what it's like to be famous and talk about all these things, but I do know how it feels to be heartbroken. I do know how it feels to be misunderstood, how to like be worrying about your family and your life and whatever. So I just really appreciated the way that she put those emotions and those feelings into words. And as I've gotten older, things have gotten more complex in my life, and her lyrics and her words have gotten more complex. And I appreciate that it feels like we're growing together. And it always feels like she just knows what to say. She knows exactly how to put something into words that maybe I don't exactly know how to do. And I fancy myself as an eloquent person. And for someone else to just be on a level where I didn't even think the way that she's writing is I respect it and I admire it and I look up to it.
okay, that's a more eloquent response. You use your word than I expected to receive. Like when I look at the Taylor Swift fandom, or just fandoms in general, they all freak me out. Like I'm like diehard, even like Kanye fans, they all freak me out because like anybody who like dives that hard into something always throws me a little bit off. But like, okay, I can respect that of like you concurrently running and your feelings are being put through her lens. I actually get that, but it's like to watch someone, I don't know, break up with somebody they've been with in a long-term relationship and people be this like incensed about it is wild to me. Wild.
It is really crazy. I mean, I would say that this, it's the internet, it's TikTok. I'll be honest, TikTok makes everything 12 times more dramatic. People think that like Twitter ruined the world. TikTok is ruining the world. And I can't get off it myself. Like I love it as well, but holy shit. Like I have never seen so many like fan theories and so much discourse on everything that she's ever done. And I also think too that she is an artist. She's always telling us like, oh, I have all these Easter eggs and I have all of these hints and little nods and winks to different things that have happened in my life and whatever. So fans love to decode that. Like she's really got a hold of like the girls who like to solve a mystery, like the Nancy Drew bitches. Like she's got us all wrapped up. You know what I mean? And so she has that. And the sad girls she's got on lock. She has the like independent women on lock. Like she's really picking like the groups of women and men. I shouldn't exclude the men, but these groups of women who feel passionately about something and have something that they feel like they need to get off their chest. And she, like I said, just kind of does it for you. And I think that like there are levels to it. Like some people just blindly are crazy and whatever. But I like personally, like I'll put her music on. Like I'm trying to go to her concert in a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I'm going to make it through because I think I'll cry the whole time. Like I think I will die of dehydration at that concert because I'll be so overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like I'll just be so like, I can't believe we're all here. We're all singing this. And that feeling is crazy. And how else do you handle it, I guess?
I've cried at a concert before. I cried the first and second time I saw Springsteen. I'm not going to lie. I bawled my eyes out.
There you go. It's kind of
I think there's
vibe. People go apeshit for Springsteen. Why is it such a problem that people go apeshit for Taylor Swift?
I think there's something that you brought up that's kind of interesting about her that she exemplifies more than other artists because she's on such a grand scale is she's really playing out this archetypal like hero story. And this it's coming from someone who there's probably like 4 hours of me talking shit about Taylor Swift on this podcast if you clip it all together. But at the same time, like it's undeniable. You can't criticize what she does really well. And there is something about the story, forgetting even the music. There's a story that's being presented. Like it's like Tolkien for not Tolkien nerds. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This massive arc to it that's interesting to hear you saying that you're connecting with her at various stages of her life and what you're thinking. And I think that's a really cool thing to see an artist do, as opposed to like, I feel like pop punk is the worst example of this, where it's like they're 22 and it never changes. Like the thoughts never change. The music never changes. The thoughts, like it's all just the same. So to see her going through life is way more interesting.
Amazing point. And also a thing that she's done so well is she connects with her fans like organically. She's not, she doesn't have this huge, I mean, obviously she has a team, but if you watch Kelly, I know you saw a 60 Minutes piece on her a few years ago. She handles all her own social media. She's her own voice. She doesn't have a PR team, you know, running her shit. It's not, it doesn't.
But dude, what's the phrase you use? Throw a flag? Is that the sporting analogy? There's no way she doesn't have a PR team. No way.
Very she has PR for like, you know, just put up some random tweets or whatever. But when it's her writing and commenting on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, it's her.
Like Bruce Springsteen's Instagram is not run by Bruce Springsteen. It's his Twitter is not run by Bruce Springsteen.
Thank God it would be like 6 hours long if it was real coming from Bruce Springsteen.
Is handled by Taylor, and I think it reflects in how obsessed her fans are and how they feel genuinely connected to her and like they're friends with her. It's the same as this like weird Barstool fucking fascination with all
good point.
Content.
Yeah,
people feel like they're part of, you know, Barstool content people's lives because they peel back the curtain and show them everything.
Right. It's almost like we're in on it. Like it feels like whenever she does stuff, and like when she does those Easter eggs or the nods and the winks, whatever, it feels like us as fans know something that other people don't. And it's like, if you don't know it, or if you don't want to take the time to know it and get involved, then that's on you. And we're, you know, more room for us.
You know, I think this is like actually a really good conversation to have, because I've always written this off just as being like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like I've always kind of been like, to get inside the mind of someone who can actually synthesize why this is such a big thing is important to me, because she's probably the biggest star in music right now.
I would say so. I say that all the time. And I say things about how big she is and how famous she is. And I feel like there are still groups of people, or dudes, like subgenres of people who just like aren't involved online or whatever, that still think that she's like the girl who writes about breakups. It's like she doesn't, it's frustrating to see, especially as like a fan, but that's just how it is. Like, got another breakup coming. So what? She's gonna write an album about it, all of her breakups. She can't hold a relationship. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, this woman is on a journey of life, and just
to me that even
why are you criticizing?
To me feels like that's part of the PR thing. Is like that's become the trope that everyone is expected to see. And it's obviously such an idiotic thing for people to be complaining that she's writing about breakups. Like that's literally what every fucking songwriter has done for the history of songwriting. But it does feel like she's obviously aware of that now. And there's no problem with her just playing off of that. Yeah.
More than aware, she doesn't like it, and she's made it clear that she doesn't like it. Like, she constantly, if you watch any of her, like her Miss Americana documentary, her Long Pond sessions on Disney, like there's a bunch of different pieces that she's done that you can watch on Netflix and blah blah blah, that where she talks in depth about her or the perception the media has about her, and how she tries so hard to like change that perception, or just for them to see her the way that she wants to be seen, versus how they've just decided to see her as this girl who can't hold a relationship and all she does is bitch about these guys. And if you look back at old interviews with like Ellen and like, I don't know, all these people that just kind of are on her ass about it. And I don't really understand the difference between Taylor Swift writing love songs and whatever about a handful of guys that we've seen them in real life. We know who they are because they're celebrities. And someone like John Mayer, who cannot pick up his guitar without like crying about a girl. Like and I love John Mayer.
I love John Mayer. That's the whole, like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, and of course, but no one says like, oh, John Mayer going through another breakup. Like, he fucks girls on the regular. Nobody talks about it. So it's like,
I say that stuff.
You do say that stuff.
I think,
that's fair,
I think
you say both,
Taylor Swift is like actually more sincere than John Mayer, to me.
Yes.
Is there a historical like corollary in music, like maybe going back away to Taylor Swift, as in like someone who had the media scrutiny, kind of did this kind of shit, and now she's kind of like that new version? Like, I don't know that there's ever been someone maybe
Tammy Wynette, dude. If you learn about the story of like George Jones and Tammy Wynette, it was a very similar thing, and there was a lot of the same kind of like negativity thrown at her, and definitely from like a female, like, oh, why is she doing this, like an unfair thing being thrown at her. And then obviously she had a tragic end to her life, like a lot actually crazier life than Taylor Swift, but a lot of similarities in terms of just being in the spotlight and everyone having thoughts about like who are you marrying? What are you doing? How's this? Is this affecting your songs? What is that song about? And it was like, you can watch, it feels like it's a natural thing that everyone has to do, is like feel like they should have an opinion about someone else's life.
Could you imagine having to answer to all your lyrics all the time? Like, especially Kenny, you write nonsense lyrics sometimes. Like, could you imagine if someone came up to you and tried to get you to explain the lyrics to Kickflipping in Malibu and you have to explain that?
What we did for our entire career when people would be like, what does this mean? And what does that mean? And we're like, whatever it means to you, man. It was the easiest.
That's the best answer.
You had to have been wearing sunglasses when you gave that answer. I feel like that's such a douchey Bob Dylan answer, being like, it is what it is, man.
We got asked by a giant company, I won't say their name, like before we got a massive sync, like big numbers, what Come With Me Now is about. And we made up an amazing answer about how it's about like positivity and like moving forward, whatever they were trying to sell. I can't remember. They actually can't even remember what it was, but we're not going to fucking tell them it's about what it's about.
Fuck them. You don't have to answer that shit. But when people are as invested as people are in Taylor Swift, they're going to ask those questions, and she has to somehow come up with answers constantly. Like I can understand how that would fucking get old. But the relationship shit, just let it fucking go. I don't know. Like, not like even artists that I truly love, I don't give a fuck. Like I really don't care.
Yeah,
like, I don't care.
I'm gonna put an end to all her relationship woes. Don't worry,
Dante.
Yeah.
we want to go number one, right? The only way this could happen is if you somehow date Taylor Swift.
Guys, I met her mom and hung out with her backstage in Nebraska. She loves me. She was asking me for Chicago restaurant recommendations. I'm friends with her private plane pilot. Hook him up whenever he's in Chicago. I have the ins. I'm gonna make
That's actually okay. Here,
I'm not gonna bet against Dante. That's what I'm definitely not going to do.
You were
smart man, Johnny. Smart man.
Someone else had tweeted at me saying something like, I forget. Castellani from work tweeted like, do I have permission to shoot my shot on Taylor Swift? And right before you tweeted at me, like, hook it up, I had quote tweeted him being like, I don't think anybody that I know personally could shine the shoes of Taylor Swift, let alone date her. I don't know. If you have these connections, I forget that you're you're kind of in there. I'm not saying that like, I don't think anybody's good enough for her, but
I will say though, my first impression I made on her, not so great. I would have never been starstruck like I was starstruck meeting her. I could not believe how tall she was. Mm-hmm. And I was like in awe. I don't get impressed by that many famous people that
Dude, I'm gonna express some sympathy for her because I cannot actually imagine just trying to find a prospective husband. If she's like out there, like actually trying to seriously, like she dated this Joe dude for 6 years, like, so obviously they're thinking seriously about it. Like, how can you have any perception of how people are thinking, what they're thinking about you? Because even like with the tiny bit of success we've had, people change when they come up to you. Like, you're like, what do you want? They always want something. They always want something from you. So I don't know how she would deal with that. Like, you'd need the best AI in the world to like sort through people and like lie detector tests and see what they're actually fucking about.
Honestly, Dante, I have faith in you that you could pull it off, but also that little diatribe you just gave there about knowing her pilot and her mom sounded like the beginning of every Netflix murder documentary I've ever watched. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
All right,
do you want to date her or are you trying to stalk her? I don't know.
Exactly.
Kelly has this like cat and mouse game going with her too, where we all know she reads everything Kelly writes and posts, but she won't acknowledge any of it. So
nothing.
Kelly, you have a chance to pump your boy up a little bit.
Dante, let's be real. If I get in with Taylor Swift, I'm taking her for myself. So
I figured as much.
All right, just let me watch.
Okay.
All right. Deal. All right.
I'm just gonna say that might have killed your chances, Dante.
I'm really sad White Sox Dave wasn't a part of this conversation.
No.
Like, could you imagine?
How many times do you think he would have canceled himself in this conversation?
Oh my God, dude. Dave's somewhere right now. We can hear it in the wind. He knows that this is being talked about. And Dave,
we talked about scheduling this. We had to reschedule it yesterday. It worked out great, Kelly, because
it did. I felt like shit yesterday. Yeah.
Felt bad confirming this with you. Like, even before the Taylor Swift thing broke, I wanted to talk about this Disney thing with you. And then the Taylor Swift thing happened. We had you locked in and then you asked to change. But we've been talking about this for a week now. Dave's been committed. And then 10 a.m. this morning, guys, I'm fully booked 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. today. It's like, dude, do you even
White Sox Dave.
Wait. You put this in a blog? Because I would love to see that.
You're gonna read it.
Dude, I thought you just scared the shit out of me.
I was like, where is he?
We have a full soundboard of White Sox Dave clips for when he can't make it. So Johnny just
dude,
knocks him
blow
in
your fucking nose. Dude, blow your fucking nose. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Dante, Italian greaseball.
Well, Kelly, we can't thank you enough for coming on and enlightening us. Your seat's always open. We're going to be doing a million more of these.
Thank you so much. Anytime. This was great.
Kelly is not only my dozen teammate, she steals so many points from me in music categories because she really knows her shit. So as you all saw today, I'd love to have her back on anytime a topic presents itself that she's
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
We got to sit down. I want you to pick one Taylor Swift album. We're going to go from it top to bottom, and we'll talk about the record from top to bottom.
That sounds amazing.
I think I'm busy that day.
Yeah, I wasn't involving you, jerk.
No, you're all going to be here and you're all going to listen and you're going to love it. I promise.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Keegs, thank you so much.
Thanks Kelly. So much.
I wanted to say so many gnarly things about Taylor Swift, but my mama taught me, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Well, before we get into cons, we'll go into them after the interview. We do have Tanner Uzray on the podcast today. Amazing interview. We pushed this way far in. That was a great combo. This dude is awesome. Great Americana artist. Was just on Yellowstone. He's really in the Zach Bryan lane. He's killing it right now. Over 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. It's a great conversation. I did want to touch on a couple things before we get into that, especially with it being Coachella weekend. Coachella is this weekend, and I'm actually kind of give a fuck because they just announced a few people added to the lineup the week of. They added The Weeknd, the biggest artist in the world right now, and they added Blink-182 for a surprise set as well.
Wait, so they added The Weeknd to do a surprise set or like a main headlining
I'm
big
sure
set?
he'll be doing a headlining set, but he was not scheduled before this week.
That's crazy to add someone that big.
It's funny that you just mentioned those two bands because of that tweet that The Weeknd put out that Blink-182 people are fucking losing it about.
What did he
happened?
do?
Oh, what was the hang on, The Weeknd Blink tweet. He put out something, The Weeknd put out something like I Miss You is the greatest song ever written.
Oh,
he put out. And then and then it went fucking ham. My thing was like, was he really talking? I mean, there's got to be a lot of songs called
I Miss You. I mean, the Rolling Stones have a song called I Miss You, like Miss You.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, what the fuck, man?
Progression really fucking got him.
Well, I mean, I looked at the daily lineups for Coachella, and I was actually kind of interested because, of course, Frank Ocean's coming back and doing his first performance. And, like, first off, that guy is still, like, vaunted as, like, one of the biggest names in music and has to put a record out in 7 years. That's fucking gnarly. That's really sick.
I mean, he had one of the best debut albums, I would say, of my lifetime.
Sure. I agree. I love Frank. I'm a big Odd Future guy. Like, I've been obsessed with Frank for a long time.
His last one was kind of a dud, but
I like Blonde.
He still has that first album.
I like Blonde. It's different. Are you looking at the lineup right here, Johnny?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Coachella is always a little bit artsy fartsy highbrow for me, but you know,
Bjork.
To be, man, it's crazy that Coachella used to be like an alternative festival.
It did,
but it used to be. It used to be really cool indie alternative shit you hadn't heard about, this and that, and then it's kind of.
When they still getting people in there like Domi and JD Beck, like that's pretty out there shit.
Well, I know, but festival, like in comparison to like how it fucking used to be, like back when I played Coachella, you know what I mean? It was way
back in the day.
Funny, same with fucking Lollapalooza. I mean, completely 180.
All I know is if you bring up the word Coachella to any of our crew dudes that we're on tour with, they have like PTSD. They're like, don't mention Coachella because it's such a shitstorm as a crew member to deal with all the dust.
A lot of times it's like
load-ins.
115 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's rough.
I remember the stage burning my feet through my shoes.
Dude, I've had that happen before. Like those outdoor sets where like you're out baking. I remember, dude, one festival I legitimately was 100% convinced because it was an early day slot and it was hot as fuck and I was hungover. And there was a moment on stage where I had a conversation in my own head, like, all right, you're going to pass out. Do you want to pass out backwards or forwards? And how are you going to explain this? Like, I couldn't imagine being on a desert.
I remember being on that hot stage, dripping sweat on my keyboard and my pedal board, thinking I was going to short something out because there's.
Oh man!
I used to put my laptops on ice packs with
Oh, yeah,
fans
yeah.
around. You had to like,
Yeah,
you had
I
to
used
do
to take.
full
I
on.
used to freeze water bottles.
Yeah.
Take 4 of them and duct tape them and put them in a freezer. And
But then the condensation, like it's a shit situation because then the
Johnny,
condensation starts getting wet.
Johnny, that's a DJ move. That's what we have to do
Oh
in
yeah.
Vegas. Is the ice pack thing.
I
didn't know. I didn't know you had laptops on stage.
backing track.
Yeah, we moved them off to like Mac Minis off the side stage, but
Yeah, Mac Minis is the way to go. But it's funny, you said Vegas. Vegas is the place where I learned. We played a festival with like Sir Sly, Bishop Briggs, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's laptops were going down. Everybody's shit was going down except for old Ken Dog. He put water bottles in the freezer and then set the laptops on top of them.
That's what you get for cheating, you loser. That's what you get for cheating.
That's what you say, man. But like, we should get into a whole backing tracks conversation because I do understand the argument. But as somebody who has spent a lot of time creating tasteful ways of using backing tracks, I think that there's an argument for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. We've gone further into using samples live and like launch pads for our drummer and stuff like that. We've never done tracks, but there are things that aren't able to be done that we do launch during a set.
Dude, it really depends on what you like. For me, it's not actually a debate. It comes down to whether it sounds good and whether you respect the artist at the time. Like when we play I'm Only Joking, there's literally no way we could redo that sound on stage without having some supplemental drums and stuff on track. You know,
most of our backing tracks were for interludes, segues between songs, MIDI triggering lights. Like it was more about the performance as a whole than it was about like, oh, I need these fucking background vocals back here. It was like helping facilitate the pacing of the show.
Well, yeah, and I've definitely softened on my opinion on everything because I do realize there's more than just, oh, I can't play my fucking
But dude,
instrument.
when I hear if I hear a tambourine or a vocal coming out of a backing track, you're off my list. You're fucking
Oh yeah,
wrong.
kill yourself. Like don't cheat to that level. Like come on.
But for what kind of music? Like how are you doing hip hop concerts without it's not even called backing track?
About when there's a 5-piece band.
Yeah. Like don't be filling in parts that you could play.
Yeah.
Or you know what I'm saying? It's like basically
figure out how to translate the song using the pieces that you have. And that's another thing. God damn it. As somebody who works with a lot of bands, a lot of the arguments I hear is we don't want to record this part because we won't be able to play it live. And I'm like, you guys the recording is one thing and the live is a different thing, and treat them as 2 different things.
Dude, Miles Davis said it best. There's only 2 kinds of music, good and bad. And that's what it comes down to. Like, if it sounds good, I don't care how people did it.
Yeah, I don't give a
shit.
shit.
Sounds bad, I don't care how they did. Like, there's a ton of bands out there, like, not touching tracks, playing the fucking folk instruments that suck.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear someone with some good usage of tracks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like we talked about this last week, but we were talking about the pre-production process nowadays doesn't exist and people go in and create things on the fly and stuff like that. I've come to realize now that my band and the way I do things is very old school. Like we still do pre-pro. We still go in the studio and have everything planned out. We don't use tracks on stage. Like I realize that we're fucking behind the curve there, but like I think to Kenny's point, you may have swayed me in a certain perspective because it's not just for cheating. It's more for filling out the sound for what you actually created.
There's things like we used to have like how do I explain this? So take a song, like we had a song called Soul Wars, a very heavy, aggressive, fast song. And then the bridge comes and I had a loop section in there where as soon as the cursor would hit the loop, it would just start looping and it would allow my singer to do that. Hey,
yeah.
Until we fucking went. And then I would hit a button that would turn the loop off. And then we move. Like it's so much more facilitating. That said, when you're talking about being behind the curve, not using tracks, the opposite side, you're like, look at LCD Sound System. Fucking Brooklyn legendary electronic band, not a single computer on stage, all hand played synths, but they can afford it.
Yeah, that it comes down to that. Like,
budget.
I'll tell you what. we are looking forward to moving. The next few gigs we do, like little tiny bar gigs, no track, like nothing. I don't even want to see a fucking computer.
Yeah. Less to set up, less to go wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna go into our interview here. We'll go into our interview with Tanner Usray, and then we'll come out and we'll talk to Captain Cons about Bruce Springsteen. So this is our interview with Tanner Usray. All right, so that was our friend Tanner Usray. Go check out his music. Go watch that episode of Yellowstone. I recently just started Yellowstone, and I can't fucking stop watching it. I watched 2 episodes in the past 2 seasons in the past 3 days. Fair. I can't stop. What do you got to say, Kenny?
I said it's very good, and it's funny that it was musically it was an introduction for me to Ryan Bingham,
The best.
Yeah.
which like I had heard he was great. I had known he was great. My drummer in AWOL played drums for Bingham for a lot of years. Then I watched the show, didn't know it was Ryan Bingham, and I'm like, this fucking actor can really sing, dude. This shit's amazing.
Crazy.
Then I found out it was Bingham, and I was like, oh,
Dude, do you know what I like about Yellowstone? I could actually just watch like the horses and like the scenery without any acting. Like I love the show, all the acting and all that. It's all, I mean, it's good and bad, but I fucking love the show. But just the scenery, dude, it's so fucking epic. I'm obsessed with like that, the American West, you know?
Everybody.
I mean, it's Sons of Anarchy for like dirty country white people. It's great. I love it.
It's Cowboy Succession.
Yes, exactly what it is. It's fucking great. Let's do a little introduction here. We have Captain Cons on here to talk about something very specific and near and dear to mine and Dante's heart. Bruce Springsteen. Cons, you want to give a little background on why you're here, my friend?
Yes, thank you all for having me. Really quickly on Ryan Bingham. I love that he's just got such a unique sound to him, and it doesn't matter. Like, he's not classically like a great singer, probably by anybody's description, but he sounds great, if that makes sense. So that's my take on Ryan Bingham. That was also my introduction to him, and I just thought he was awesome. But no, I am here because I am born and raised in Jersey, which means you are born and raised on the boss, more or less. I can remember, you know, in my mom's car driving around, she had like 5 cassettes that were on rotation, and, you know, Born to Run, Born in the USA, Nebraska, they were all on rotation in my mom's car growing up. So I was listening to Bruce Springsteen well before I even knew what it is I was really listening to. And then, you know, being from Jersey, I think we just have a lot of state pride, and certainly he is one of the folks that we prop up as our guy, just because he is so loved in the world of music. Certainly his politics have gotten a lot louder in recent years, but I like to keep those two separate and take him for who he is as the musician. But I was just recently at his show. We're recording on Thursday, April 13th. I was at a show at UBS on the 11th. It was amazing. I kind of just commented on Dante's blog that he wrote, because he said it was a horrible experience when he went in Detroit. So I was like, what is he talking about? Because I know Dante enjoys Springsteen, but then I read the blog and it was so much more than really
Fucking
about Springsteen.
Fucking Barstool, New York, typical over exaggeration. I did not ever use the word horrible experience ever.
You said it was me. All right, you said mediocre. It was mediocre.
Mediocre. Big difference.
All
Big
right.
difference.
All right. Yeah.
Especially in comparison to the other. I honestly have tried to go back and count. I think I'm in the 13, 14 range. The other 13 times I've seen him, like, which have been life-changing, like, amazing fucking experiences. It just wasn't that for me. That's all I was saying.
All right. Well, I apologize.
It sucks.
I feel bad.
Than me. I'm glad that you texted me while you were there, and you were like, you know, fucking pumped for tonight. I texted you after. You said it was a great show. Somebody on Twitter made a good point too. They said that the crowd obviously, and I mean, this is like 101, but crowd obviously played a big part. And you said,
sure,
the crowd you were at was fucking going bananas the whole time, right?
Well, that's a New York show. You know what I mean? That's different.
Yes. I think you probably had a lot of people who were semi-local to Jersey, obviously, since we were in Long Island. And seemingly every time I've ever seen him, and I guess maybe I'm jaded here because I've only ever seen him in venues that are local to Jersey, whether in Jersey or the surrounding area. So it seems like everybody knows their cues. Everybody knows which parts to sing along to.
Yep.
Different parts throughout the set list where he's looking for more crowd interaction. You know the songs he's going to get down in the crowd. So it was just a lively crowd. And also this somewhat of stem from, I wrote a blog about how I just think it's silly these days when people go to concerts and they hold their phone up the entire time and watch a concert through their phone. And to the people who say to me, well, why do you care? Well, I care when I'm behind a bunch of people who have their phone up and they're ruining the experience for me. That's when I care. But I just think nobody cares to see that video you posted on your Instagram story, because unless you're in the building, it never translates via a phone. So I was just, obviously people have their phones out. They take pictures. I took some pictures. But by and large, the crowd was just into the music. They were there to hear Bruce Springsteen, because obviously it's been a few years between the pandemic and then just the schedule of things. He hasn't been on tour with the band for a while. I haven't seen him before 2 nights ago. I hadn't seen him in 7 years since the River tour. So
that's the last tour I saw too.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people really take that to heart, and they're like, you know what, I'll take a few pictures so I can remember that I was here, but I just want to be present and listen to the music. And I don't know how much we're going to get into, talking about set lists and big picture Bruce Springsteen, but it was a very different show than 7 years and longer ago.
So wait, Dante, where did you see him that you were not thoroughly impressed?
Detroit. So I had to go to Detroit because tickets in Chicago are fucking astronomical. And when I say astronomical, I'm talking like $1,000 for a seat close to the stage. So my buddy, we couldn't get tickets. We tried our ass off through his fan club to get tickets the right way. We got blocked out, secondary markets, bananas. So because of this Ticketmaster dynamic pricing bullshit, which Taylor Swift kind of got all the brunt for, but Springsteen, same exact shit. And it it didn't go unnoticed, but he isn't getting half the shit she is. But anyways, my friend got tickets in Detroit cheaper, which still wasn't cheap. They were still $400 a pop. We were side stage, which isn't terrible, but for $400 a pop, any other concert, you have pretty damn good fucking seats or you're on the floor. Mm-hmm. Not this case. So just walking into it was kind of like, kind of like a kick in the balls. Like I just got fucked over to get into this place. This show better like blow my fucking mind. And having high expectations, I think, kind of cheated me of the experience. But the reason I kind of confirmed that it wasn't that great of a show is my friend who had never seen him before left and was kind of like, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't like the first time I saw Springsteen, I was like, I couldn't like walk. My knees were wobbling. I was like, oh my God, I get it. Now I totally get it. I was like converted. So yeah, that's what happened. And also like Detroit, I've seen a million bands up there. I go up there all the time. I saw Guns N' Roses like kick off their tour up there. It gets fucking wild. It wasn't that crazy for the Springsteen show. The floor was nuts, but up by where I was, it was all old people. They were sitting down half the show, like standing up. They're like asking you like, hey, can you sit down? So it's kind of like, that was kind of a fucking storm cloud too.
So there was a lot of factors that weren't the music necessarily that went into your emotion from the show.
I said it in the blog. He still sounds fucking incredible. It's that he's 73 years old. Still sounds incredible. He looks better than I do. And
he's hot as hell.
Myself. I like am praying I can look like he does at his age. And the band sounds like they have been on tour together nonstop for 5 years. Not like, they sounded great, especially for their ages.
Yeah, no, wasn't surprised to hear the band and him, for that matter, sound as good as they did. But I understand if you're seeing Bruce Springsteen for the first time in 2023, I don't know how likely it is that you're going to have the same experience that I'm going to say that we all had the first time seeing him. I was sometime in the 2000s is when I first saw him, because it was a different show, right? It was longer. It was, I would say, I don't want to say less rehearsed because I know all the songs, but the set list varied night to night. If you go look at the set list, he's largely playing the same set list night after night. And I think that's just a byproduct of their age and their energy levels. And I get it. I'm
All
not.
right, Connor,
Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have a friend who made me think I was out of my fucking mind. I specifically remember going to his shows back same time you did. That's when I became a super fan, was mid 2000s, and every show I saw was completely different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was monitoring the set list since his tour started, and it's been basically the same show every night. And he's not doing fan selections anymore. He's not doing covers aside from the new album, really. And I brought that up, and my friend's like, "Dude, he's always done the same set. What are you talking about?"
No.
Yeah. So you agree?
Yeah. And listen, how big is his catalog? It's massive, right?
Right.
And anybody who knows a little bit about Bruce Springsteen, especially if you've read his autobiography, you know the guy is a perfectionist.
Yep.
So he's not going to trot out songs that he doesn't feel like the E Street Band can absolutely crush. So at this age and this juncture of their career, I think it's just easier to have a fairly a very tight set list that you don't really deviate too much from. It's just easier for them to manage. And that stinks for us that remember the days of old. And, as I said, if you see him now for the first time, I think you'll still be blown away. It's still a great show, but compared to what it used to be, it's just not the same. I don't want to say worse. It's just not the same. Because all that unpredictability, I think, is what made for so much fun back in the day.
Well, I think a little inside baseball here, and I have a couple points on this because I think from a technical side, there might be a rationale behind all this. But also, like when you say like different set, the last time I saw him was the River Tour, diehard fan. I was in the pit at Citizens Bank Ballpark, fucking greatest experience of my life at a concert, right? I didn't know what was coming. I knew they were going to play a lot of the River, but the beginning of the set each week, they would pick different albums to cycle through. So the first like 6 songs of that set was all of The Wild, the Innocent, and the East Street Shuffle. So I got to see Kitty's back, which was fucking insane. I didn't expect that. But I think one of the reasons you might be seeing the same set list night after night is a production element because when I just saw the Killers, they do the same set list every night because they have triggers on their stage setup, right? Johnny and Kenny might back me up on this.
They have visuals and fucking lights and like they have a pyro fucking. I saw him at the Super Bowl. Like Springsteen, there's no production. There's lights and.
I disagree.
What I'm saying more is the fact that how big's the band? You said, Dante.
18 people.
Right. So I think that they're trying to make that maybe one, it's an energy level thing, but 2, just logistics of it. They're trying to give these 18-piece band a fucking set list and don't deviate from it because it's such a massive production. Maybe not on a pyro side, but more on like this is just a fucking basically orchestral undertaking. You know what I mean? It might be that.
Yeah. And I mean, there was production, and I don't know the X's and O's of production, but I mean, there were a lot of lighting cues for sure that were down to the note on songs that absolutely enhance the experience of the song, I think. So to be able to try to do that for every song in the guy's catalog, I think that's impossible. You could say like, all right, if we play something off the set list, like whatever, we're not going to have cues. But I think that goes back to, again, he's trying to make it a special experience for each and every one, because maybe it is somebody's very first time seeing the E Street Band, and he wants that to be special for those people too. Right. Obviously, a lot of people that go to see Springsteen have seen him multiple times. I think most people are multiple time viewers or listeners of the band. So again, it's not bad, it's just different. And I think that's just, like I said, I think by and large, it's just a product of all of their ages. And that's just the reality of it. It's sad. It's a bummer, but nevertheless, it's still an amazing show. It was still enjoyable.
Did you hear anything off the set list that you were hoping to hear? Like, I remember I tweeted at you yesterday when you said you were going, and you said you wanted to hear If I Fall behind.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that was a pipe dream. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we had Born in the USA, we had the tour debut of Born in the USA, but you know, I thought that would be a pipe dream to hear that. And that was just topical for me because I, you know, had a buddy read it at a wedding, my wedding for as a reading. But, you know, there was, I went into it expecting to hear basically what I heard.
Right.
And having not heard him live for 7 years, I was cool with that. That was great. It was a fantastic show. But the days of being blown away that you might hear something, I just think that that's not as likely now.
I'll tell you what, though, I still got blown away by hearing The Rising live.
Oh, yeah.
That is just like the ultimate concert feel song. Like it is like heard it a million times. It still get goosebumps. And
yes. I'm getting goosebumps now. Just,
yeah. You know what that song is for me? Like when I see him is Wrecking Ball. Every time they do when I saw him for the first time was the Wrecking Ball tour, and they did a tribute to Clarence during that. And I fucking bawled my eyes out the first time I saw it. So every time, plus that's just that's like a football pump up song in a way. Like that song makes me want to run through a wall.
Yeah. Two things based on what you guys said. Number one, I'm going to see him again at MetLife Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
And I'd put money on it. They'll play The Rising again at MetLife, you know, a few miles from where everything happened. But seeing that in a stadium is going to be special. And also of note, tickets right now are only $80. Now, granted, that just gets you in the building, but I don't think there's really like bad seats in arenas or stadiums. If you're in the building for a concert, I don't really think there's bad seats. And then the other thing you mentioned, you know, tribute to Clarence. I'm curious what you guys think. His nephew, Jake Clemens, was handed an impossible task.
Yep.
And they said, hey, and granted, like Bruce didn't just give Jake that role because he wanted to be nice. He wouldn't have given him that role if he didn't think he could do it. But he was given the impossible task of, hey, not only are we going to ask you to fill in, and I'm not going to use the word replace because you cannot replace Clarence Clemens.
Nope.
We are going to ask you to fill in for arguably one of the biggest figures, not just in that band, but in musical history. He is a titan.
Yep.
So fill in for that. No, by the way, it's your uncle. He was given an impossible task. And for every time I've seen him now, he's answered the bell. He really has come and it'll never be Clarence, but damn if it's not really, really close and still very impressive.
I said that Colin asked me how the show was, and that was one of the first things I said was, dude, fucking Clarence's nephew, man. Holy shit. Like he was good before. He is unbelievable.
Well, how lucky is Bruce? Because we just had Jay Weinberg from he's the drummer of Slipknot, who is also Max's son.
Yeah.
And when Max went to go do Conan, Jay filled in. And like, can you imagine having the lineage that he has to pick from just to be like, oh, by the way, we're going to flip in your son or your nephew? Like, it gets.
Thank God for Jake's sake that he's actually a big, imposing dude too. And he's got the big hair. Because if he was like 5'6", I don't think it works the same. Right? Like he needs to have that presence that Clarence had on stage. And I think Jake comes pretty darn close.
Cons, we're gonna let you go. Thank you for fucking stopping by to give us a little more positive spin other than Dante's nihilistic blog.
Yeah.
He's such a hater. You know what I mean?
Favorite Springsteen album?
It's gotta be for me, it's Greetings. I just I feel like it's very raw. You know, and maybe the nostalgic factor of like that being the introduction to the world for them. That's just really kind of always stood out for me. And I'll leave you guys with this one memory. If anyone's ever been was at this show, they'll know what I'm talking about. And you talk about the difference now with his set list versus years ago. So I was at his birthday show in 2012. Show supposed to start at 8:00. Massive thunderstorms at MetLife, the new Giants stadium. So we had to go into the concourse. Everybody was in the concourse for 2 hours. All right, 10:00. All right, show's gonna start. The weather's passed. you worry like, oh man, is he going to cut it short? He played for 4 hours till about 2:15 a.m. for his birthday.
I heard about this. You were there.
That was just, I mean, magical that he just keeps going. Go look at that set list. It was unbelievable, you know, topped off with happy birthday. And he has his mom on stage and his sisters handing out birthday cake. It was unbelievable. So I'm happy that I have that memory. And hopefully people can still make good memories for as long as they're still touring. I don't know how many years they got left in them, but I bet you it's more than any of us could predict. So hopefully I get to see him a handful more times. I appreciate you guys having me on to talk. Clearly, I think I shown that I could talk about this probably for a good few hours. So if you ever want to talk again about Bruce, let me know and I'll come back.
I just extended this to Kelly Keegs. I want to do a Taylor Swift album with her. I want you to pick out a Bruce album. We'll sit down and we'll break it down top to bottom.
Love it. Let's do it. I appreciate it. Great to meet all you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Cons. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, fellas. Take care.
Take it easy. All right. That was Captain Cons. Dante, do you feel swayed at all or do you feel validated?
No, I mean, I feel like pissed off, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm getting tagged in. Was he in Philly last night?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Bruce?
Where was he last night? He was somewhere.
He might have been in Happy Valley. I think he might have been in Penn State.
All right. I think it was Pennsylvania. And all these people are tagging me on his official Instagram account. They posted professional photos from the show, and people are like, at Prima Dante, what a shitty show. LOL, clown, like all this shit. I'm like, motherfuckers, I never said it was bad. Read what I fucking wrote. It was not as good as it was in the past. There's a huge difference.
Fuck him, Dante. Fuck him. Oh, man. Johnny, your mic's off, man. we really went in here today. Do we have anything on or off the list we want to talk about before we get out of here? Anybody have? Kenny, what was your off?
Dave is off the list. Dave might be off the show.
Yeah, Dave's fucking fired, yo.
Shit like this does make me happy though, because we can swap out Dave and there's other Barstool personalities. I like the fact that we're letting people from the company like showcase their more musical side. I think that's cool. And then there's us four fucking morons who continue to roll this out every week. I'm proud of us. It's good stuff.
Do you know what's on my list? What's Dante's gonna know this. There's that, I can't remember the fucking name of it. There's that track from, I think it's like early 2000s. It's techno-y sort of track with a saxophone. I've got to find the fucking name of it. You know the one. It's like, it was just a monster.
Yeah.
Was it M83?
No. Hold on, I'm gonna find it.
What a great band, by the way. They put out a new record.
Yeah, M83 is fucking sick.
I haven't vibed that hard yet. I don't know. I got to listen to it a couple times.
You ever get into the Midnight, Kenny?
Yes and no. Oh, what's funny, I wrote and produced a song with a band called Animal Sun, which I think did Congo's podcast. They have the Midnight featured on their new single that we did coming up.
Johnny, it's Jubel by Klingande.
I'm thinking of Calabria. Do you know that one?
Oh, that one.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've always loved that track. It came on one of my playlists like randomly. Like, holy fuck, dude. Talk about like most impact for least amount of stuff. Like, it's just so simple and so fucking impactful.
I respect that.
Cool.
I respect that too. Yeah.
Neat.
Real quick. So,
Kenny, we'll do the pop punk version for you later.
Oh, I can't wait. Palm muting, chugging.
We're going to start rolling out some more like creation content. I think me, Kenny, and Johnny of like making things. I think that's going to be cool.
If we actually do it first.
We'll do it. When we have fucking time to do it, we'll do it. But on top of that, Dante, our interview next week is with Elderbrook from Vegas. How was that?
Awesome, man. Funny thing, I don't want to spoil it, but he walked into the green room. We were setting up, and I was told before by Libby and our friends at Atlantic that his voice is magical. Obviously, I think you've heard the song Cola that made him famous. He's got this incredible voice, and he's also an incredible producer, but he's known for how good his voice is. And he walked into the green room, and he's talking with his TM, who is from where he's from, and they're talking like Peaky Blinders, like Train Spotting.
Oi.
That accent. Yeah, I was like, this can't be the guy. Like, it was the dirtiest, filthiest, like Scottish British dialect. Like,
Love that.
the fuck that is. And then when he sat down and talked to me, it was like a totally different fucking voice. It was nuts. And he has the smoothest, like most soothing. It was like almost like hypnotic, like putting you to sleep voice. But he's the man. He's fucking so cool.
Dude, our tour manager was Scottish. Kenny knows him. Like, you could talk to him, and it was kind of difficult to understand him. When we played in Glasgow, like, literally, you couldn't understand a fucking word that came out of his mouth when he's talking to, like, other local crew. It's just like, I don't know what they're saying.
Oh, when you're around the people with your accent, you turn it up to 11. You know what I mean, John,
when I go back
What's your,
down to Florida,
yeah, I can't even fucking imagine Colin not talking to us.
yeah.
this is my customer service voice, dude. This is me like cutting it back. Imagine
Brutal.
like
Yo, it's
drunk-
the same. When I go back to Florida, man, I start dropping my O's, my R's, and we start
Yeah.
right back to where we came from.
no, man, I could be talking to somebody from wherever, but if someone from like Northeast Philadelphia walks into the conversation instantaneously, oh fuck, dude, where are you from, dude? You know what I mean? Like like because it goes to me like, oh, that's really great, nice to meet you, and then you just turn it up to 11 because you feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
That's given to anybody from the South. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great episode, a long episode. Thank you to Tanner Uzray. Thank you to Kelly Keegs. Thank you to Captain Cons. This thing continues to fucking roll on. Fuck White Sox Dave.
No, he texted. He just said he's taking his dog for a walk. I don't know if that's code for something, but I'm starting dog walk now. Tell the world my story.
Oh, Dog Walks his podcast.
Oh. I don't fucking. That's what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's code or not.
He's walking his dog. All right. Well, next week, be back with all the boys. Thanks,
dog.
everybody.